before we have our speakers who are specialists in the disability sector, I just thought it was appropriate that we spend some time just understanding the complexity in the sector and how it affects everyday lives. So as you can see from this slide, with a population of about 22 million people here in Australia, we have approximately 4 million, or 20%, who report as having a disability. And generally that's resulting from some health condition. Now, 1.3 million of those people have what we refer to as a profound or severe disability. To put this into perspective, what we have is every 7 hours in Australia, a child is diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. And every 15 hours, a child is born with cerebral palsy. People with a disability in Australia, very sadly, only represent 50% are likely to be employed. People with a disability are likely to be employed. So 50% of those people presenting with a disability have very low economic participation rates. So what we know is economic participation is critical to people's well-being. So that's a significant issue, socially and economically. So that results in 45% of people with a disability in Australia living on or near the poverty line. So we have a very, very real issue, and as Matt mentioned in his introduction, there's probably not a person in this room who isn't personally impacted by the state of the disability sector and the life issues, the quality of life issues that people in Australia experience with a disability. So the launch of the National Disability Insurance Scheme is absolutely a wonderful thing. We will hear a lot today about the issues and the challenges with that, but keeping in mind this is addressing one of our greatest social issues that we have in this country. So what is the National Disability Insurance Scheme? Well, it's an insurance scheme, which means that it is quite different from the welfare models that we have seen to date in supporting people in our communities with a disability. And as an insurance scheme, it works on the principle of investing early to reduce the long-term costs. So it is classic risk prevention for all of us risk professionals out there. We love it. So using the example of someone with autism, if we think about their ability to economic participation, if we invest in them early and build their skills and make the most of their abilities, their chances of being able to participate in the workforce as adults is vastly increased, as opposed to the welfare model, which is a drip feed, and it takes years and years and years to actually even get to the point where you might get some supports. And for young children particularly, what that means is that many of the neural pathways and things that will help them develop some of those skills, they've lost that great opportunity of time of that occurring. So early investment, a lovely insurance principle, is fundamental to the scheme. The scheme is administered by the National Disability Insurance Agency. So you'll hear that mentioned throughout the course of today. So that's an independent Commonwealth Government agency whose sole purpose is in implementing the NDIS and the ongoing management. So just to touch again on the 4 insurance principles that you will see clearly throughout the design of the scheme. So it's all based on actuarial estimates. So what are, and this is another term you'll hear, the reasonable and necessary support needs of the target population. So those people with a disability that are identified as meeting the criteria for the scheme, their funding is based on the necessary supports. So it does take that lifetime approach, as I used in the example of the child with autism. So invest early to build their capability so that they can participate in the community, as we should all be entitled to do. It is also designed to continually build markets and invest in research and encourage innovation, and you'll hear a little bit about that as well today. So it is able to, instead of being this sort of fragmented system where funding is coming from all different sources and navigating where you might be able to get support, it's now taking a systematic approach to the management of supports for people with a disability. So that's an overview of what we're going to hear quite a lot about in the next little while.